The Galaxy S20 Plus. Confidential. Unauthorized use prohibited. No photo allowed. Not for sale. Do not leak info. Well, whoops. This is the Android Police Podcast.
It's Monday, January 13th. Welcome. I'm Corbin Davenport alongside Cody Toombs. And the first thing we have on the roster today is all the Galaxy S20 leaks. And there's been a lot of them. Samsung is still a very leaky ship, despite their best efforts, as Cody alluded to. A few pictures of the S20 Plus were posted a few days ago from Max Weinbach of XDA. And the pictures themselves are actually hilarious because it's the phone, but on the back of it, it has a sticker that says, no photo allowed, not for sale, all that stuff. So it's just amusing for that.
Yeah, the days of keeping anything under wraps are, let's be honest, they're over. They're so completely over.
Especially, can you imagine a company at Samsung scale, how many people have to see the phone before it comes out? It's probably in the hundreds at least.
Well, and not even just within Samsung itself. The phone gets sent out to testers for each of the carriers it's going to be on. It's going out to obviously FCC verifications and everything else. So yeah, by the time a phone like this gets any sort of travel, too many people have seen it.
Yeah. But yeah, so the S20 Plus is the only one we have pictures of at the moment, as far as I know. There's a center-aligned punch hole selfie camera on the front, so the same thing as the Note 10. It's fine. It's a punch hole camera. There's a little bit of a curve on the edges of the glass, just like most of Samsung's other recent flagship phones. There's no Bixby button, it looks like, which is slightly surprising, but I guess Samsung finally realized no one wanted that in the first place.
That, or somehow they'll have another way to activate it, which
there'll be you squeeze it.
Yeah, which I still hate that gesture, but
yeah, I would have liked to see Samsung maybe replace it with just a regular shortcut button. I think BlackBerry does that, and maybe other companies, but I think we need more customizable buttons in Android phones. The camera array is kind of the main selling point. It looks like there, just like the leak said, there's 4 rear cameras. There's a 12 megapixel primary one, and then on top of that, there's ultra wide, telephoto, and perhaps a macro lens. So I'll be interested to try that because I remember playing with one. I think it was a Huawei phone with a macro lens, and I was having so much fun with it. I was in this briefing thing while I was at Google I/O. The entire time I was just playing with the macro lens. I was like, I want this in my phone. So that'd be fun. Maybe I'll get to do review photos with just a smartphone. That'd be wild. But there's also several different models coming. It's not clear if the separation between 5G and regular LTE models isn't clear. Max leaked some of the upcoming product names, and some of them have 5G in the name and some of them don't. So I assume 5G is just on the upper tier ones, just like last year. But also Qualcomm's doing that thing where if you want the latest flagship Snapdragon, you also have to have 5G. So that's not really clear. But yeah.
Yeah. So we may or may not see, and it's pretty certain we're going to see at least a few Exynos models, but I wouldn't bet on that being quite as widespread as in the past, because 5G is, let's be honest, it's this year's selling thing. It's the buzzword that they have to put on every phone.
Yeah, I do know,
even if it's going to be terrible.
I do know Samsung does make Exynos chips capable of 5G because that's what the international versions of their S10 5G phone used. But I don't know if they're still going with that, and if they go with that, I don't know. Does it implement all the different types of 5G? Because again, there's the high band and the low band 5G. So who knows? Those are the kind of details we usually don't get. We usually don't know for sure until pretty close to release date. So
Hmm. Yeah. So, uh, as usual, it's going to be for sure one of the best selling phones of the year. Uh,
mhm.
we can say that before the phone even comes out. Um, it's going to be the next Samsung phone.
Yep, it'll probably be good.
So, switching gears a little bit to another company that's definitely on the way up, and one day maybe taking on Samsung for their title, OnePlus. So we already know the OnePlus 8 is going to be a phone, and now the CEO Peter Lau has announced that it's going to come with a 120 hertz fluid display. So, you've already seen high refresh rates on previous OnePlus phones. This is going to be the same situation. They're using a Samsung built 2K AMOLED screen. It's going to apparently do some like smooth motion scrolling interpolation, which people kind of
Ugh,
know as the soap opera effect.
no,
Yeah.
there better be a button to turn that off.
I mean, for non-video purposes, that's fine. In fact, that's probably good sometimes. For once you're actually looking at video, it looks awful. I
Yeah,
truly hate that effect so much.
yeah. I remember I was looking through some of the TV announcements from CES when I was working on my roundups, and a few of them now actually advertise that they don't have that video smoothing effect anymore. Apparently, there was some meeting with like famous Hollywood directors and such, and they came up with this mode that where it just doesn't have it, and they're calling that, I think, director's mode or something silly like that. But yeah, so TVs are starting to move away from that a little bit. It seems like so.
Yeah,
Hopefully it doesn't have video on that on the OnePlus.
yeah, and they really should be. But continuing on, the display will have a 1,000 nit peak brightness, which is pretty bright. You'll definitely have no trouble seeing this outdoors. And one thing I personally love, they're apparently going to ship with 10-bit color support, which, for those that don't know, the basically your color range on most screens typically is 8-bit. It looks fine. It obviously is capable of a lot of different colors, but when you're talking about 10-bit, that's awesome. It gives you a lot of potential gradation between colors, and if you have video that supports 10-bit, it really just it looks that much better. It's kind of I don't want to say it's HDR like. It's something technically different from HDR, but it has some of the same qualities.
Right. Yeah, and of course, I think there's even less than a handful of Android phones right now with 120 hertz screens. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is the Asus ROG Phone 2. I know like 90 hertz screens are starting to become pretty common, but 120 hertz is still next level. So that'll be interesting. And also, I think OnePlus's tendency of having great battery life might come to an end if they do go with 120 hertz, because that is pretty demanding. Unless they do some sort of like smart switching thing where they turn it off when it doesn't need to be on, but we'll see.
Yeah. So this phone will also be coming to Verizon. It is basically let's see, is this a leak?
Yeah,
Uh
it was from one of our sources.
yes. So yeah, it's going to be appearing on Verizon, apparently with the full Verizon treatment, as in pre-installed apps, all the carrier stuff. It should support, I believe, their what, like high def calling feature, I believe.
Yeah, or
Um,
voice over LT. All
yes,
the stuff that usually doesn't work when you just bring an online unlocked phone to a carrier.
exactly. So and in all likelihood, I imagine this is also still going to be coming to all of the other carriers OnePlus has worked with in the past. So it basically just good news for Verizon and OnePlus.
Yep. It looks like it'll be a good phone. OnePlus usually hits it out of the park. I really hope there's water protection this time. It's starting to get really silly.
Yeah, for a true flagship phone to not have a good IP rating at this stage is starting to look a little shaky.
And
But we
it's
don't know yet,
yeah,
which is
we don't know. It has been funny seeing OnePlus kind of do like the opposite of the headphone jack marketing, where like you advertise you have something, but it's kind of just as a result of not changing. Whereas this is like they've kept they've kept coming up with like new ways to say, oh, we don't need an IP rating because it costs more, or we don't need it because it's already kind of water resistant, but please don't dunk it in water because we won't help you if you do. And
yeah.
yeah, and then of course, whenever we talk about that, we always get a few comments like, well, companies won't honor your warranty from water damage on water protected phones anyway. But it's like, but that's not the point. The point is that I should be able to like take it out in the rain and I don't really have to worry about ruining it, which is something I have to do with OnePlus's phones.
Yeah. And I'm just going to predict it right now. If they're going to market something called fluid display and not have an IP rating, and yes, I know full well that these two things are unrelated, but let's be honest, this is almost setting themselves up for some bad memes.
Yeah, or yeah, and also wireless charging that's still missing on their phone. I don't use wireless charging personally because it kind of freaks me out a little bit on a technical level, but that should still be there. Um,
Is it confirmed that that's not going to be on this model?
I don't think there's been any rumors yet
Okay.
about that. Um,
I'm quickly skimming over to see if I can find details, but I don't
but it
see
has,
anything mentioned in our posts.
yeah, but OnePlus hasn't built a phone with wireless charging ever. I'm pretty sure, unless it was like a really long time ago. I don't recall, but
Yeah, it's slipping my memory too.
it's not
But
on any of the recent ones.
yeah, for sure. Again, it's something that I think everyone's starting to expect.
Yeah,
Though that's one where I also feel like it's less necessary. The IP rating is something you just kind of have now. Wireless charging, I'm willing to kind of give a little bit of leeway on
yeah.
that one. And
Wireless charging, I think the main advantage just, as for normal people, isn't so much like, oh, I can just set my phone on this pad I bought and charge it instead of plugging in a wire. It's, oh, I went out somewhere and they have Qi chargers built in on the tables and I can't use that.
yeah, well, and I know that one of their big pushes, at least a year or two ago, was our phone charges so fast you don't need to worry about like intermittent charging the rest of the day. So, if you can just plug in for 15 minutes and you're good for half a day or
Right.
whatever. And then whenever you get another chance, plug in for another 15 minutes, you're golden. Like you don't need to worry about having to set your phone down on a wireless charger so it can slowly trickle up to full.
Right.
And I kind of get that selling point, but it also it feels like
It's
spin more
it
than
is very much
sincere.
spin, and also we'll see how much longer that quick charging remains true with the 120 hertz screen. That might not get you a half day in 15 minutes anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
I like I
So
like Jan Solo in the Twitch chat just said, "I'm wirelessly charging while watching you guys on Twitch." There you go.
so correct me if I'm wrong, but this means OnePlus now has a relationship with T-Mobile, Sprint, and Verizon, which here in the US that only really leaves you AT&T as the sole holdout.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Somehow that feels weird to me when it wasn't that long ago that AT&T was kind of known as the company that would take phones from almost anybody just so they could say like you never had to give up a phone or
Yeah,
never had to give something up to go with AT&T.
right. And yeah, I mean they had the red hydrogen on AT&T, but I think that's the only like weird phone I've seen on AT&T in a while. like they didn't get like the essential phone or anything like that. I know I was only Sprint.
Yeah.
But again, that was probably in their best interest too.
Evidently, no kidding.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
phone
I,
didn't
I
seem to do very well.
I remember years ago when AT&T was the only carrier to have uh the at that time the new BlackBerry Touch base, the BlackBerry Storm based
Right. Yeah.
phones. They had the Palm. They had a Palm phone. They had Windows Phone at that time was the name they were going with. Like they had literally everything on AT&T. It was the
Right.
only carrier that did it.
Yeah. So yeah, good job, OnePlus breaking into the U.S. market. I didn't think I'd see a OnePlus phone on a carrier before a Xiaomi phone, but here we are.
I think you mean major carrier, but
Yeah. So yeah,
which
upcoming OnePlus
now that I
phones.
say that implies T-Mobile's not major. Maybe this part should be cut out when the podcast goes live, because I feel like I'm gonna get hate mail.
all the T-Mobile stands will tag you on Twitter telling you how
I
wrong you are.
I take it back, T-Mobile team. I take it back.
John Legary's gonna come knocking on your front door in his slow cooker outfit and be like, "What'd you say about my carrier?"
Well, he's not even going to be with T-Mobile soon, right?
That gives him plenty of time to go hunt down people who said mean things.
uh, so yeah. Anyway,
Oh goodness.
yeah. Well, OnePlus is making some money, so cheers to that. And speaking of making money, Corbin,
Speaking of making money, we need money. Android Police is live on Twitch 4 times a week, and we definitely cannot do it without all the support we get from you guys. Seriously. And if you like the show and you want to help us do it, the best way to do that is subscribing to the Android Police channel on Twitch. When you do that, you get a special emoji of Ryan's face when he was really drunk. It's a lot of fun. Also, in all the giveaways we do, you get extra entry methods, which is fun. And tiers start at $5 a month. But if you have Amazon Prime, Amazon actually gives you one free $5 sub you can give to anyone. Please give it to us. And when you do that, you actually don't pay any money, but it's still the same amount goes to us. So it's not just you getting the rewards and not helping us. It actually does monetarily help us. You can learn more about all that at twitch.tv/AndroidPolice. And if you don't use Twitch and you don't really want to mess with all that, you can still go to androidpolice.com and hit the donate button. And we have a bunch of ways there you can help support us. And thanks to everyone who's already subscribed and donated and helped us in any way. It does mean a lot to know you guys like the show and you want us to keep doing it.
and we do appreciate our fans. Unfortunately, one company that doesn't appreciate its fans anymore, HTC. Not to say that there are a whole lot of them left out there, so so it goes. But in case you're not familiar with this, HTC used to run a fan program called Elevate. Elevate, for lack of a better way to put it, was kind of a place for HTC's fans to get together. They talk, hung out. Really dedicated fans, especially those with a decent social following, also typically got a lot of sort of free offers or discounts, things like that. It was also kind of a place where they circulated news about where you could try new phones, so on and so forth. You get the idea. Anyway, it's been around since 2012, and as it turns out, it's gone. It actually went under, let's see, what, I'm looking for the date, but oh, hey, it actually went down on January 1st of this year, and it was down for a few days, and then mysteriously came back up. There were, of course, a couple of different theories on this, but generally speaking, it looked like just a server went down and probably no big deal. And when it came back up, everything was still functional. And that only lasted a few more days before HTC updated the site with a message politely saying, "The program is dead. Email us if you have support issues. Goodbye."
Mhm.
So yeah, Elevate is toast, which is kind of I'm sure for HTC fans, like true dedicated fans, I'm sure that was kind of a bit of a blow. And for HTC's reputation at this stage, having gone the direction that it has, that's bleak. It's definitely really bleak.
Yeah, yeah. It's just another stage of HTC slowly rolling down. Um, I mean, have they even? I don't even think they launched a flagship phone last year. I don't know if they have any plans to this year. So it's again more evidence that, for better or for worse, HTC is sort of in a holding pattern, at least with its smartphone business.
Yeah. And so as Jules is also reminding in the chat, um it not only did Elevate go down, but actually the whole HTC domain went down for a little while. And
Yeah,
I'm of the opinion that that was probably just a legitimate server error.
yeah,
Um
or they were like messing with the DNS records or something.
exactly. Or I will even throw this out, seeing as how it happened very specifically on January 1st, it's very likely, or at least plausible, that this could have just been like a billing error or some company changing over
They
something,
had
and
they
it
had a
may have had
Y2
very little to do with HTC.
they had a Y2K moment.
Pretty much. But all that being said, um,
Did you
I,
did you I don't know if you saw this, but there's been a couple news articles that there was actually a little bit of a Y2K moment, um, in January 2020. Because apparently one of the more common fixes for preventing Y2K originally was to just add 20 to the max year. So
mm,
like I saw like parking devices in New York were going down and not being able to process payments and all this sort of other stuff. So maybe that's what happened.
yeah, that sounds honestly entirely too likely in programmer laziness.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be another one of those in something like 2060 when the Unix date format runs out. So yay, computers.
I can't remember why, but I think there's also something in 2034. I don't remember why, but I think
uh,
it was something in that general range. It might not be 34 exactly, but yeah,
oh
another
yeah,
one of those is
it's
coming.
the year 2038 problem, and that is the Unix thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah, anyway, as far as HTC goes, one of the things I just have to question is this actually really a sign that maybe HTC truly is done with phones? Because in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it would cost that much to keep HTC Elevate running. So assuming that there are still people who are members and at all active, it kind of makes sense for them just to keep it going unless they actually truly don't see a future for it. Because, it's relatively cheap advertising to give a place for people to just get together and uh, talk about your product.
yeah. I mean, it could be a bunch of different things. It could be maybe they don't want to pay people to manage it anymore or something else. But yeah, but again, it's like the 50th sign that maybe HTC's smartphone division isn't long for this world. Um, I don't want this to sound like I'm just shitting on HTC. I liked their phones in the past. I wish they weren't suffering so much, but they're just not doing anything. Like I think last year they released like two budget phones and they were both running like really old versions of Android. So they're just not doing good, and it's sad.
Yeah.
Maybe this will finally be the year when they close shop and then just start licensing their name like BlackBerry does.
Oof. Well, if anyone was going to pick up HTC at this point, I could almost see it being Alcatel, or not Alcatel, but
Yeah, TCL. Yeah,
TCL. Thank you.
yeah. TCL is like they're like the THQ Nordic of the smartphone world. They're picking up every single dead brand they can. Now they've got BlackBerry, they've got Palm, they've got There's some other big one I'm missing. I'm sure someone's like screaming it as they're listening to this podcast right now. But yeah, they're yeah. I'm sure HTC will eventually do that.
Suddenly, and I know that this is the most random thought, but I'm glad that HTC didn't decide to like sell off the domain quietly to somebody who was just going to redirect to like a scam site or advertising. And for that matter, I slightly credit them with the fact that they didn't turn around and put advertising on HTC Elevate, because that would have been A, something the company has actually done with their phones in the past, and B, in general, it just would have been kind of a crappy thing to do. So, minor cheers for the fact that they're just shutting it down.
Yeah. So speaking of old things, I guess
Things
I
that are
don't know.
doomed.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was there.
So yeah. So a couple days ago, Doom 1 and 2 for Android got a pretty big update. So if you're completely out of the loop, last year Bethesda released Doom 1 and 2 on a bunch of different platforms, including Android, and it's the same basic experience, but I think it's using like the Unity engine now. The port originally wasn't very good. There was like this weird online requirement with it, and some other bugs. The online requirement's gone, and I think some of the weird stuff has been ironed out. Um, I kind of just assumed like this was like a one and done thing, like they're just going to port the games and that's it. But apparently, Bethesda just wants to keep making the port better, because there was a pretty big update a few days ago across all platforms, not just Android. But the main feature in the update is support for custom WAD files. So those are the little level files that people made all the time back in the day for the original Doom game, where they could create their own custom levels and distribute them.
Well, not just levels, but they even included basically all the graphics. So you could retheme characters, you could make monsters look like different things. Yeah, it was honestly like basically all the
Yeah,
resources to the game.
yeah, it was like it was level editing and modding, and even like custom music. Like Bethesda said, they had to implement like a MIDI player in the Doom port to so it could play the custom music from these WAD files. They have a couple of WAD files available for download just in the game itself if you don't want to go hunting for them online. Depending on, like, some of these are only for Doom 1 or Doom 2 or whatever. But some of them include TNT Evolution and the Plutona Experiment, which are both part of the final Doom re-release at some point. I forget when that came out. There's also Sigil, which was designed by John Romero himself last year. And also No Rest for the Living, which was part of the Doom 2 release for Xbox Arcade back in the day. So there's a lot of extra stuff in there for free. And exclusively on the Android and PC versions, you can download WADs from wherever and just put them in the right folder, and they'll show up in the game. And that's not on iOS or consoles. So, yay, Android. So that's super
And
cool.
yeah, I'm not sure if this is really true, but I want to say it is. I believe this is probably the first time that we've seen a major game on Android support modding or effectively support mods. That's
Hmm.
awesome. At least I can't think of anyone else who's done it.
Yeah, I don't play a ton of games on Android, so I'm not the right person to ask. But yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. From Bethesda, no less.
Yeah,
Um,
no kidding.
so, and there's a couple other nice features in this too. There's a 60 frame per second mode, so it's no longer limited to just like the 35 or whatever the original game was. There's some aspect ratio options. You can go to a level inside an episode without playing the entire level or the entire episode if you want. So that's kind of fun. And also, there's like a weapon carousel thing, so you don't have to just cycle through every weapon one after one. So yeah, just a bunch of little quality of life improvements. If you want to download them, they're $5 each for Doom and Doom 2 on the Play Store.
Yeah,
So
which pretty great price for something that uh just given the sheer availability of WAD files out there, uh to be able to pick up a game that it really has a pretty big breadth of like continual playability out of it. That's actually really good. So
yeah, and
double
there's
cheers to Bethesda for doing this.
yeah, and there's like console, there's controller support. Bethesda did mention that only WADs designed for like the base Doom 1 and 2 games will work. So I assume there was maybe like I think Ultimate Doom was released a little later and added some stuff that doesn't work, but most WAD files should probably work with this. So yeah, that's nice, nice little feature update. I wasn't expecting them to update this at all.
Yeah, and it is nice to see that there's legitimate games coming or like kind of hitting this sort of cadence. And, granted Doom was never the most technically challenging or demanding, but hey, this is like if you're going to see games ported to Android, this is how you want to see it done.
Yeah, I think Sega needs to take some notes here.
Oh my god, yes.
Sega's like, what do you mean we can't just put it in a Genesis emulator?
Oh geez. Yeah,
Or I'm sorry, no. Well, I know Sega did that, but also like Capcom. I think there's
yep.
like they did like a really terrible Mega Man port for Android a while back.
Well, realistically, those play better in a regular emulator with the like pirated ROMs than they
Yeah,
play in what was officially released. And the same
yeah,
could actually be said for a lot of Final Fantasy games.
yeah,
Square Enix has been horrible on Android with most of their releases.
yeah. So good job, Bethesda. You did something good.
So, yeah, yay. Games.
Yay.
Um, let's see. Did we have any questions? Because uh feels like there's been a lot of activity in the chat, but I did not see anything. Um,
People just having fun for the ride.
well, that's always a good thing. So anyway, we'll edit out that moment of dead air and confusion. But if you've enjoyed the show, all the topics we've talked about today can be found at androidpolice.com/podcast. We're live 4 times a week at twitch.tv/androidpolice. And if you've got any thoughts you'd like to tell us about, you can email us at podcast@androidpolice.com. On Twitter, Corbin is at Corbin Davenport. I'm at Cody_Toombs. That's TOOMBS. And our producer, Jules Wang, is at Point Jules. And our theme music is by Home. Corbin and I are back for the Q&A stream tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And we've got another podcast on Wednesday. Till then, enjoy your week and take care.